Sir Albrecht would have you undertake a trial. It is pleasing to see how readily the dragon stirs within you. You show great potential, Tolucc, a potential that may well prove the difference between victory and defeat. Estinian is no ordinary dragoon. Even when set against the legendary Azirs of ages past, the man is considered second to none. Such is his high prowess, in fact, that the day he was chosen by the Eye, it was proclaimed that Haldreth, the Dragon's Eye, had been reborn. I mean not to disparage your skills, Tolucc, but to pursue Estinian in your current state would be tantamount to suicide. As promised, I shall train you in the way of the Dragoon, that you might face Estian as an equal. Before we commence, however, it is only fitting that you are edified regarding our origins. It all began a millennium past, when our forebears resided in the southern plains in the humble circumstances. The Fury, impressed by the spirit of our ancestors, decided it was meet that she make them her own. So she did appear before Haldreth's sire, a man of courage and integrity named Thorgrin, and bade him lead her people to a promised land, what would become the great nation of Ishgard. Their journey brought them to a wide chasm, whereupon Thorgrin and his people set to building a bridge. It was then that a dark shadow descended upon them, the great worm Nidhogg. Needless of his own safety, Thorgrin fearlessly charged at the colossal beast. Alas, he was pushed into the chasm by one of his own, a man seduced by the worm, and fell to his death. Taking up his slain sire's lance, Haldreth hurled himself at Nidhogg, even as tears streamed down his face. The confrontation ended when the young man, his hand guided by Halone, landed a mighty thrust that prized out Nidhogg's eye. With a terrible roar of pain, the great worm took wing and fled, while jubilation reigned below. Ishgard's priceless relic is none other than the eye taken from Nidhogg that day. It is a veritable wellspring of dragon power. Even so removed from its owner, it can exert control over the hearts of men. Haldreth himself felt its malign influence, but his love of justice booked no corruption, and he prevailed under the power, claiming it for his own, and so it was that the first Azir Dragoon was born. Being derived from our foe, the power of the Dragoon is a thing to be loathed, but as Haldreth proved to us all, so long as our hearts burn with justice, we need not fear being taken in its thrall. But what is justice precisely? Justice assumes many shapes and forms, and Tolucc, none can say that one is greater than another. So long as you hold fast to your beliefs and stay true to yourself, you leave no room for the power of the Dragoon to master you. But enough of history. Let us return our attention to the present. A knight by the name of Sir Brucemont will see to the next stage of your training. Seek him out at the Witch Drop. So the adventurer seeks to become a dragoon? Ha! Sir Albrecht speaks of legends and chosen ones. But I would see you prove yourself in more practical fashion. With your lance. Defend yourself. You have some skill, I'll give you that, and the glow of your soul crystal. Perhaps Sir Albrecht was not wrong about you after all. Now return to him. Your training is here because it's complete. The soul of the dragon grows ever stronger within you, Tolucc. Clearly, your trial was a rousing success. I need only observe you to know that as much. Yes, though you have only just begun to walk the path of the Dragoon, it is clear you possess the talent to become Estinian's equal. Go forth and make the powers you have obtained your own. When the time is right, we shall proceed with your training. Sir Albrecht would send you on your next trial. You grow ever stronger, and I speak of more than just the flesh. Aye, you are slowly but surely realizing your potential as an Azir Dragoon. It is heartening to look upon, though I must confess that my presiding feeling is one of relief. You must understand the mere thought of the I would choose an outsider, one who ill comprehends the threat posed by the dragons, filled me with the gravest of misgivings. Yet you have, but I shall say no more, lest flattery impede your improvement. Now, during our last lesson, I enlightened you regarding the origin of the Dragoons. You'll recall how Haldreth heroically triumphed over the great worm Nidhogg, and Ishgard came into the possession of the Eye. Tell me, Tolucc, do you believe that these events truly transpired, or are you inclined to think them fairy tales? I ask you this because few folk have seen dragons in the flesh besides we Ishgardians, and most would as soon dismiss them as products of the imagination. Alas, dragons are no less real than you and I, with Nidhogg perhaps the most real of all. In the course of its history, Ishgard has suffered the creature's wrath of 8 separate occasions. Each time the great worm rouses, the blood of countless Ishgardians is spilled. Let us revisit the past once more, Tolucc. The time is 20 summers past, and the place is Dravania. After a century in slumber, Nidhogg awakened once more to resume his reign of terror. Entire villages were razed to the ground, their inhabitants reduced to smoldering ash. Sensing the great worm's unbridled rage, others of his kind began to rise, and in such numbers as to blot out the sun with their wings, a deep foreboding darkness swept over Ishgard. Raging infernos painted the belly of the sky an angry red, the agonized screams of innocents fading into deathly silence. In my station as the Azir Dragoon, I was there through it all, bore witness to all the horrors. But there was no time to offer even a silent prayer. Nidhogg lingered in one place only long enough to lay it to waste, and when he took wing, so too did I pursue him, a man possessed. This game of cat and mouse continued for what seemed an eternity before I found myself face to face with the great worm. The battle unfolded in a tiny settlement on the edge of Corythus, raging on for 3 days and 3 nights, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. Remaining by my feet, by my sheer force of will, I realized that it must now end, else it shouldn't end well. Marshalling my last ounce of strength, I wagered all on a single thrust. My lance struck home, burying deep in the ruin of my opponent's empty eye socket. Yet before I could withdraw my weapon, the worm lashed out wildly in its agony, dealing a blow that might have left me sprawled upon the scorched earth, nay, incinerate. In that instant, I thought myself surely doomed, but alone was not finished with me. Having lost the taste for battle, Nidhogg let loose a blood-curdling roar before fleeing into the sky. The battle was over. While I did not perish from my injuries, they rendered my body unfit to bear the power of the dragon, and I was Azir Dragoon no more. Lying bedridden, my thoughts wandered to all the innocent lives that had been lost, the people I had failed to protect. The last conflict with the dragons of Dravania left countless orphans in its wake. Estinian is one of them, the sole survivor of Ferndale, the final village to suffer Nidhogg's wrath. With none left to care for him, I did the only thing I could. I took Estinian as my own son, instructing him in the way of the Dragoon, when he was of age to learn it. Yet I would not have you think of me noble. My actions were born not of compassion, but of guilt. My guilt at having failed him. But alas, I have also failed him as a father. For what manner of man did I bring him up to be? A thief who would endanger the life of every one of his countrymen? Aye, but you heard me all right. All of Ishgard may suffer for his crime. Though we know little less of the minds of dragons, it is conceivable that the disturbance surrounding his stolen eye will rouse Nidhogg to awaken once more. That his kin have already stirred from their slumber serves as fair warning of that. Time is not on our side. Fortunately, it would seem that you are more than ready to embark on your next trial. Make your way to the Witch Drop, where the knight Hustinin awaits your arrival. My nation is depending on you, Tolucc. You're the one who would aspire to be Zir Dragoon? Why, you're not even of Ishgard. If you truly possess the power that Sir Albrecht sees in you, then prove it to me with your lance, and guard. That strength! I have not seen its like since Estinian himself stood before me. Mayhap, perhaps Albrecht has the right of it, after all. Return and show your crystal to him. I have no doubt he'll be pleased. You have passed yet another trial with fine colors, Tolucc. The day when you may stand before Estinian as an equal is not far off. And when that day comes, the Eye will choose you over the traitor. I have no doubt of this. But we must be patient still. For now, you must continue your training. When you do no more on your own, seek me out once more. Sir Albrecht has been eagerly awaiting your arrival. Impeccable timing, Tolucc. A message arrived from Estinian but moments ago. Much to my astonishment, he would trade words with us, and bids us meet him at Boulder Downs. As to his true intentions, I cannot say. It may well be a trap, but we must go nonetheless. I trust I can count upon your company? Greetings, Master. It has been too long. Estinian, end this folly at once. You must know that each second the Eye passes outside of Ishgard's walls brings us closer to a repeat of the tragedy of the 20 summers past. Surrender yourself in the Eye, and return to me with Ishgard before it's too late. Ah, but it is already too late, Master, for you see, Nidhogg has already awakened. What? Hear me, Master. You have mistaken the cause of the dragon's return. The Eye is not to blame. A premonition came to me by virtue of the dragon within, warning me that the great worm would soon ruse. Even as he slumbered, Nidhogg seethed with irrepressible rancor for the wound of 20 years ago. That rancor will send him flying as a speeding arrow to Ishgard, whereupon death and devastation will ensue. But there is a possible solution. Were the Eye taken to a remote land, far from the Holy See, then and only then could the destruction be averted and the lives of innocent Ishgardians be spared. You mean to make a bait of yourself? Nay, there's more to this than you let on. You seek vengeance for Ferndale. To me, the two are one and the same. You know my past better than anyone else. It was for no other reason than to avenge my family that I became a Dragoon. Dragons long outlive men and do not soon forget the wrongs done to them. What grudge they harbor burns as fire in their hearts, over time swelling into an unquenchable inferno. You need only look back on history to see that the Nidhogg grows stronger with each awakening. When last he darkened our skies, the great worm came within a hair's breadth of laying waste to Ishgard. Not short of death will prevent him from completing his mission when he next wakes. Nidhogg took everything from me. Now I shall take everything from him, even if it means my life. The eye works in ways men can ill comprehend, but this much is plain. In choosing two Azir dragons in one generation, it means for us to join together in common cause. Adventurer, you have heard my resolution. Now I ask that you lend me your power. Aye, the power of the dragon. In the long and proud history of Ishgard, never before have two Azir Dragoons arisen in the same era to fight as one. This is our best, nay, our only chance to send the great worm to eternal slumber. Behold my armor. This is the Draken mail, forged in the lifeblood of dragons. As blood calls to blood, so too does the armor call to the dragon within, redoubling the wearer's strength thereby. If you would realize your potential as an Azir Dragoon, you must needs clad yourself in the same. Clad so, you will inherit the technique passed from the Azir Dragon to Azir Dragon down through the generations. Then and only then will your training be complete. But first, you must win the Draken mail as I and Sir Albrecht did before you, by proving yourself worthy in the ultimate trial of the Azir, a series of battles so harrowing as to send the unworthy to an early demise. Master, once the adventurer acquires the armor, pray, see to it that she learns to harness the power of the dragon in full. Estinian, wait! Save your worries. I do not mean to make myself easy prey for dragons. I take my leave of you. Estinian. At first it was my intention to bequeath my own armor to you. I am an Azir Dragoon no longer, and its powers are wasted on me. It would be simple enough to hand it over to you and complete your training right here and now. But it is as Estinian said, the Draken armor is no ordinary set of mail. Its strength derives from the dragon blood whence it came, the blood's power resonating within the soul of the wearer. Though I can no longer draw upon mine own armor power, it is bond to me was forged years ago. Were I to bestow it to you now, I fear it would offer but a scintilla of protection it afforded me in those bygone days. Aye, Estinian has the right of it. You must claim your armor as he and I did before you. You must complete the trials of the Azir, and that the powers of the dragon blood be yours and yours alone. The ogre's belly will be where your final test begins. I shall dispatch Sir Brucemont there. Seek him out upon your arrival. You have grown strong since last we met, but you pale in comparison with your Azir forebears. If you would prove me wrong, let your lance do the talking. Once again, adventurer, you prove yourself worthy beyond my expectations. Take this, but know that your trial has only just begun. Your next challenge lies in the chamber beyond. Sir Hufstian awaits you there. You, a foreigner, would don the Draken armor? Then prove to us that you will not dishonor it. Sir Albrecht said the Eye had chosen you, and it would appear he speaks true. The armor is yours. Wear it with pride and honor. Your trial is nigh complete, but be forewarned. Many before you have made it this far, only to fall at the final challenge. Do not let overconfidence be your downfall. So you have made it this far. Very well. Prove yourself worthy of the Azure or die in the effort. You have demonstrated your powers to me, that is beyond a doubt. Aye, there is not an Ishgardian who would give gainsay your right to don the armor of the dragons. I shall send word ahead to Sir Albrecht that you have passed your trials here. It is he who will present you with the 4th piece of armor, and consummate your training. Go now, my fellow Dragoon, and deliver this land from the Great Worm's wrath. I hear from Sir Brucemont that you have performed most impressively. Yes, I stand more convinced than ever that you will be the one to save our land. Yet be warned, Tolucc, one last trial awaits you. You will face this trial in the presence not of knights, but of ghosts. Make your way toward the Steel Vigil and seek out a gravestone north and west of the structure. Take with you this flute, and when you reach your destination, blow a single strong note. A visitor shall soon arrive. Entertain your guest, and should he leave behind a present, return it here to me. Your presence before me indicates that you've seen to the visitor. Have you aught to show for your deeds? Ah, the Skull of Greywine, an old warrior of the Dravanian horde. It is said that in ages past he could bring down a castle with a single breath. His strength has dwindled since those days, but a dragon past his prime is a formidable foe nonetheless. In slaying him, you have proven yourself worthy of this. You now possess 4 pieces of the armor that Estinian, myself, and our forebears did wear. While you doubtless wonder about the 5th, I can tell you only that it is not mine to give. Fear not. However, your triumphs in the trials and against the dragon of the horde give evidence that the Draken blood now resonates with yours. Yes, you stand before me as prepared for your ultimate challenge as any could. And yet, before we proceed, I would hear it from your own lips. The Great Worm's power is the stuff of legends. Have you truly resolved to fight to the battle? To risk your own life to deliver a foreign land from the clutches of its ancient foe? When you are certain and your mind is settled, return and speak to me. Sir Albrecht would ask that you reaffirm your commitment to do battle with the Great Worm. So, you would join your strength to Estinians, that Ishgard might be free from the rage of the Great Worm forevermore? Then I shall honor my promise. You shall have full use of your powers by the time we are done. Before we begin, there is something I must needs confess. You will recall the tale of my battle with Nidhogg 20 years past, and how the power of the dragon left me on my account of my injuries I sustained. What I said was an untruth. The power did not abandon me, Tolucc. It was I who abandoned it. Being derived from our mortal enemies, the power of the Azure Dragoon is a double-edged sword. Even as it lends us the strength we need to smite dragons, it heightens our communion with the creatures, rendering our minds more susceptible to their seduction in ordinary men. Even as I buried my lance in Nidhogg's flesh, our gazes locked, and my eyes met them with a look that would fair impale a man. In that instant, I found myself assailed by a torrent of emotions not my own. Sorrow, rancor, pity. They threatened to drown the man in me and leave us behind a dragon. Fearing that I might turn traitor, I chose to purge myself of the power that the eye had bestowed upon me. Thus, regaining lucidity, I was able to root the grievously wounded Nidhogg. Alas, countless of his brethren yet remained. As if to mock me, they fell upon Ferndale with vengeance. Bereft of my power, it was all I could do to save but one child. Nary a soul knows of this, nay, not even Estinian, but I can't keep him on the dark no longer. At our last meeting, Estinian said that protecting Ishgard and exacting revenge upon Nidhogg are as one to him. That frame of mind, I fear, may well lead to his demise. The desire to protect and the desire to avenge are opposing forces that can ill be reconciled. Worse, the latter serves only to cloud his sense of self. When next Estinian and I meet, I intend to confess all, though it may mean the loss of his good opinion. The outcome of the coming battle and his very life may well depend upon his readiness to relinquish his power. Never allow yourself to forget the origin of your strength. Ever does the dragon lurk behind your eyes, biding its time, ready to claim you for its own. Aught less than complete conviction, and you will find yourself in its vice-like clutches. So forewarned, let us return to the present endeavor. My promise to Estinian was that I would impart upon you the technique that will mark you as a true Azure Dragon. If you would know the truth, however, this knowledge is not within my power to bestow. No, you must claim the technique, much as you have claimed the 4th piece of the armor you bear, by proving yourself in battle with the dragons whose power you would unite with your own. I entrust you with this flute once more. Take it to the southwest and of Providence Point and blow a single note. By locking wills with your adversary and prevailing, you will prove yourself worthy to champion the cause of which your lance is sworn. The dragon within you shall then awaken. It is good to see you safely returned. I take it from your bearing that the engagement went favorably? You left this place as a woman, Tolucc, but you return as a dragon. There is no more for me to teach you. From here, your battle is yours and yours alone. Now, you might recall me saying that the fifth and final piece of the Draken armor was not mine to give. However, that is not wholly true. I could guide you in the direction of that which you seek. That said, I yet have reservations. The sheer power of the dragon housed within is such that a great many of your Azir forebears, myself among them, have proven hopelessly incapable of wielding it. But I do ever doubt what I see. Within you has awakened a strength that forever eluded the likes of me. If you are not worthy of wearing the armor, then I know none who are. Remember my warning to you, Tolucc, and I heed it well. Nidhogg is a lord among his kind. Aught less than complete conviction and you will surely fall under his thrall. Before you can master your foe, you must needs master yourself. Hone your lance arm till it can bear no further owning, and then present yourself to me. When the time has come, I will tell you what you need to know. I look forward to our next meeting, my young Dragoon. Sir Albrecht wears a solemn expression on his face. Tolucc, an urgent message arrived from Estinian in your absence. He bids you come at once to the still vigil. It would seem Nidhogg is on the move, and rather sooner than we anticipated. It appears you have not yet fully become the master of the dragon within you, and yet we are racing against time. I fear we have no choice but to do battle to the best of your current abilities, and without the dragon mail I promised. Now let us away. Estinian must know the truth of Ferndale, lest he fall for the great worm's seduction. Albrecht, I have waited long for this day. You, who fancy yourself an Azir Dragoon, the man whose cause have taken for your own as a coward, he relinquished the power of the dragon of his own volition and watched as Ferndale burned. Do you not think it's ironic that I was chosen as Azir Dragoon? I, an orphan who has not of value to protect an Ishgard? I suppose I must give thanks, for it was the eye that revealed to me the truth, a truth so damning as to undo the lifetime of trust. I loved you as a father, but I can ill forgive you for Ferndale. As I understand it, you've kept the Archbishop in the dark regarding the missing eye. Do you mean to take the shame to your grave? But I waste my breath. Prepare yourself, old man, for I shall lay to waste all the things you hold dear, and once I'm finished with you, I shall do what Azir Dragoon has succeeded in doing. I shall claim Nidhogg's head. Calm yourself, Estinian. Your rage renders you vulnerable to the dragon's influence. Tolucc. In you, I thought I had found kindred. Someone beside whom I could fight the great worm. It is with heavy heart that I relinquish the dream. Your affection for this coward has rendered you deaf to your own destiny. Very well. That we would one day cross lances is inevitable from the moment of our first meeting. As we shall now find out who is the Eye's true Trojan, there can be only one. Feeble creature, dost thou desire power? Look to thine anger and to thy hatred. Is there that shalt find it? O mighty Nidhogg, Lord of Dragons. Grant unto me thy blood, that I might be granted the claws and fangs wherewith to rend thine enemies. Tolucc, this is impossible. It cannot be. Forgive me, Estinian. I have failed you once again. I am fine, Tolucc, somewhat shaken, but otherwise whole of body. Suffice it to say I have much to reflect upon. Let us reserve to the observatorium. When the being of darkness closed upon us, as you appeared to me the spitting image of Haldreth the Dragon's Eye, just as he is depicted in the Holy Scriptures. I thought that mayhap the years had taken their toll on my mind, but behold, the soul of the Dragoon shines as it never did in all those years I bore it. It would seem you have achieved that which was thought impossible. You have awakened to the ability that none of the first Azure Dragoon possessed. Truly, a momentous achievement. I can still scarce believe that you were able to summon the self-slain Draken mail worn by Haldreth. To think that it had been sealed within the Soul Crystal all this time. I have borne witness to many and more wonders over the years, yet none compares to you, my young Dragoon. Could it be that you are... Mark not my mutterings. I am certain that it was your indomitable sense of justice that resonated with the spirit of the first Azure Dragoon, prompting him to bestow the armor upon you. Yes, that is doubtless what happened. As the being of darkness faded, so too did Nidhogg's aura subside, and now as his kind has ceased their stirring. Whether this was compelled by your awakening, I cannot say. I suspect we will learn the truth of it eventually. Estinian, my dear boy, whatever becomes of him, he will ever be a son to me. I pray that he is somewhere out there still, and that he has not wholly forgotten the great man he once was. When that darkness brushed against me, that self-same torrent of emotions swept over me as those I experienced 20 summons past. But there was something else besides. There was a voice, and it lamented the rift that divides dragons and men. You will come to comprehend what I speak of in due time. Till then, Tolucc, I pray that you will ever use your newfound strength in the name of justice.